Hello again, Mark McDonald, First United Methodist Church of Batesville, as we continue experiencing God, week 7, day 4. Bam, got that one. Today is really more of a Bible study lesson. Today is looking at some scriptures, but I want to give you a phrase. Of course, the title of today's lesson is What You Do Tells What You Believe. Again, remember that conflict between belief and trust as we deal with our faith, but understand that we're always also dealing with the concept that when you have an encounter with God, when you experience God, you always have a crisis of belief. Now, what does that mean? Hopefully you're working through that in your workbook some. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sell everything you have, give it to the poor, and follow Jesus. For some, that may be their crisis of belief. And if the thing that's most important to you in your life is your stuff, your possessions, that may be one of those calls that God gives you. But it may be simply that you have to swallow your fear, your pride, and talk to somebody you didn't want to talk to, do something you didn't want to do. It can be as magnanimous as the story of Jonah, or it can be as simple as Mary and Martha having a struggle in their own house when Jesus came to visit. Those are all crises of belief. So don't think that a crisis of belief means that you have to radically change your life, but you do have to radically change your attitude, your beliefs, and your trust in God. You have to dig deep into that faith. Here's the catch, friends. If you go to God and say, God, I want to know what you want me to do with my life. Why am I here? If you ask those questions about purpose and meaning, or try to see God's vision for our church, for your community, your family, yourself, if you are seeking what we often refer to as God's call in your life, are you ready? Then you cannot expect God to say, well, based on everything you have in your life right now, I want you to take this little bitty baby step. I want you to think about for a minute the story of Peter when he was in the boat and Jesus came walking across the water. And Peter begged Jesus to give him that kind of faith. And so he stepped out of the boat and walked on the water. But as we know that scripture goes, he began to sink. Why? Because he began to doubt. Now, doubt is not the opposite of faith. Fear, really, I think, is the opposite of faith, but doubt is part of faith. It's a matter of how much do you believe, how much do you trust, and you're always moving in that. Jesus did tell us that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move the top of a mountain. You might have some big excavators, and it takes a lot of time too, but in any of these examples, I want you to understand that it doesn't mean that it's all or nothing. What it means is that you are not going to be comfortable. You're going to be asked to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, your comfort levels. So just as Peter had to take that first step out of the boat into the sea, he was able to do something he never would have believed because he trusted Jesus so much. That doesn't mean that he kept it forever, but that does mean that we are able to do far more than we can ask or imagine. Yes, more scriptures. So today's a lot about studying. We look at the Old Testament, some case studies, and we come back to an old saying that you ought to know. Actions speak louder than words. Be a blessing today.